You're listening to the Psychic Dream Journey podcast with your host, author, and psychic dreamer, Kim Treffinger.
My guest today is Dr. Christopher Sowton, author of the book Dreamworking. Dr. Sowton is a doctor of naturopathic medicine and a licensed psychotherapist in Ontario, Canada. He holds DreamWork seminars for healthcare practitioners and runs a private healthcare practice. Join us today while we dive into the benefits of working with your dreams. Well, thank you for joining me today, Christopher. I'm really excited. I spent the past couple of days diving into your book, Dreamworking, and honestly, I didn't really know quite what to expect before, but I absolutely loved it, and I don't
Wonderful.
say that very often, but I felt like, for someone who, from my perspective, I've spent so much time focusing on the extraordinary dream experiences that I really didn't make the time to go into your average dreams that really have some deep meanings that I will be honest, I'll admit I brushed a lot of them off because I just didn't really know what to make of it. And a lot of the dream interpretations that are out there seem a little caught up in mythology or, popular sort of meanings that didn't really speak to me at the time. But your book really, I felt like, is a great guideline for everyone to get an idea of what could be going on with their dreams. So I want to ask you, to tell us how you got started with dreamworking.
Well, it's interesting what you say about extraordinary dreams, because for a lot of people, those high-powered, super special, rare, extraordinary dreams are the only ones worth thinking about.
Well,
and the only ones we're studying. But actually, every night, most of us have dreams that have pretty significant communicative content, I would say, as if, somebody inside us or outside us, which is a very interesting, debatable point, where do dreams actually come from, is trying to send us a message. And I got interested in that kind of message bearing quality of dreams way back in the mid 1980s. I remember listening to a quote by Marie-Louise von Franz, the famous Jungian dream worker, who said, "We are trying to train people to hear their own inner voice and follow it through dreams." And I thought, yeah, that really resonated with me.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, isn't that nice? We have an inner voice, or you could say an inner guide.
Sometimes it could be an inner bully too.
It could be. Sometimes it really gets on our case.
Oh, yes, it does.
But I think those dreams, which I call ego check dreams, are very important, whereby your unconscious is pointing out to you something that you're doing. It's almost like it's holding up a mirror and saying, "Hey, you see what you're doing?
Yes.
Do you want to keep doing that? Or not?" Or
Right.
Would you like to change that? And that is a very simple function of dreams, and one that happens very, very frequently, but I think very important, including, because I'm in healthcare, and my first applications of dream work were in the interests of helping my patients get healthier. So, what these ego check dreams are often related to health at a very early, you could say, preventive level, at the level of early preventive medicine, because they're pointing out to us ways in which we're imbalanced, or ways in which we're very stressed, or making unhealthy choices. And that's very valuable feedback. So that nightly feedback function that dreams provide us, I think, is super important. And I got tuned into that quite early, and I said, you know what, I'm going to use this in my work as a doctor. This is very relevant information to me. And then I've been using it for the last almost 30 years now. And I more and more have, in the last few years, I've trying to teach other healthcare practitioners how to use dreams in their practices. And when I say healthcare practitioners, I mean in a very broad, inclusive sense. I mean anybody who works with other people. So that's,
to improve their
yeah,
condition in
anyone where you go to work and somebody that you're working with could tell you a dream. And you know what? That's a lot of people.
It
That's
is, yeah.
counselors, psychotherapists, pastoral workers, nurses, doctors. It's a lot of people who, if they're open to it, sooner or later, one of their clients is going to tell them a dream.
This is true.
And then what will they do? Will they actually say, "Oh, okay, I think I could help you get some insight from that"?
Yes.
And that's what I hope. That's what my book is really about, is to encourage people, to cultivate a deeper relationship with their own dream life, and to find all the possible would-be future dream workers out there in the world. People who could be really, really helpful for other people, helping them get insights and connections from their dream life.
Right. Well, gosh, I had like a long list of things. So now how do we, so we talked about a little bit of where dreams come from, just a little bit, but is there anything more that you would like to share about that? I mean, I know it's almost an unanswerable question in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, I find it endlessly fascinating to think of, and who or what is it that while you're asleep can organize the contents of your dreaming mind into a coherent dream and have you remember it.
Right.
Some people just call that
a theater, a filmmaker.
Right. It is like that, or like a movie director. It's like, it's almost like it selects material. Yeah, sure. You often dream about the concerns and inputs of the day before and the day before that. That's true. Yes. But out of all the millions of things that you took in recently, why did your dream maker select that and that person and that motif and that animal and that emotion to put into your dream?
Right.
Some dreams, I admit, are fairly chaotic and seem to be quite random, but other ones not so. They are highly organized and they have a striking quality of trying to tell you something
with embedded emotional content that isn't necessarily apparent on the surface, other than you may have a gut feeling of, you may feel an emotion you don't realize is connected to a deeper thing. And while I was reading your book, and I don't know if we should save this for later, but I came across the story of the woman with the teenagers in the backyard that hopped over the fence.
Well, she was a teenager. She was 12 and 3/4 years old when she
That's right. At 3/4. I remember that.
Yeah. And I think that was very important, because I put it in because it was relevant to the dream content. She was just on the cusp of becoming a teenager herself.
Yes. Now,
and she was scared of it.
Is that a common dream theme, though? Something hopping over the fence in the backyard? I mean, that sort of scenario, because as I was reading it, I had one myself that I could relate to, and just reading about hers made me ask those questions about mine, which up until then had been like, why did I dream about a gorilla hopping over the fence in my backyard and coming up to me? And I was afraid of him, and then I'm patting him on the head with love.
Yep.
And then he
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
turns around and hops back over the fence to go off on the hill with this woman. And it ended up being partially precognitive in that we rarely get people walking back behind the open space back there. And then the next day there was a woman walking back there.
Mhm.
But I was like, well, what was that gorilla? And at first I thought it related to my concern for the wildlife back there, where with the woman tramping back there, preparing for a tour basically the next day, which kind of unnerved me. But it turns out it's deeper than that. It's the gorilla. It's a personal deal of mine,
right?
Regarding my 4 dogs.
Well, even without knowing exactly what that gorilla refers to,
yes,
I can tell you it's a very good thing that you had a positive, friendly encounter with it.
Yes.
Whether it's an inner gorilla, meaning a part of you, or an outer gorilla,
right.
someone in your life or something in your life that you're concerned about. In either case, it could have been very frightening, right?
Yes.
Intimidating, but
yes, I was expecting. I was feeling fearful when he came over the fence, but
you made
then he
friends
got up to me and just sat there like a dog. And I pat him on the head.
Right. Well, I would say the vast majority of times, and to answer your question, yes, that is a very common theme. Not necessarily hopping over a fence, but someone coming into your house or into your place or pursuing you is super common in dreams, and usually is attended with some degree of fear or apprehension at first anyway.
Yes.
But most commonly, if you do what you did in your gorilla dream, which is to meet the gorilla and befriend it,
face it.
then what happens in many cases is that there's something I call a positive shift. The feeling tone shifts from fear and apprehension to wonderment and appreciation of the qualities of this other being.
Right.
And that means, psychologically speaking, in most cases, that you open the door to meeting a new and emerging part of yourself that you were formerly afraid of. And now you're getting to know it. It doesn't seem so frightening anymore. In fact, it seems really good.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's beyond cool. It's psychologically very wonderful. This is what the Jungians call a shadow part, meaning a part of you that's in the shadow still. You don't know much about it yet. It's new. It's emerging. And it may, in some cases, it may be actively suppressed or repressed or disowned. But, the fact that it was a gorilla suggests that, it's pretty strong, it's powerful, and maybe it has some animal instincts associated with it, and yet it's capable of relationship, which you started to work on even within the dream. Now, let's say you had a dream like that, but you were terrified of the gorilla and you ran inside and locked the doors to try and keep the gorilla out, which is very common in dreams.
Right.
Then what I would do, if you were my client and you were in my office and we were discussing this dream, I would have you consider opening the door and going out to do exactly what you did in the dream, which is meet the gorilla and try to converse with it, find out what it wants, who it is, why is it there, and then it would shift positive in most cases. What happened with you is you had the positive shift actually within the dream itself, which is wonderful.
Yes. I think there was potentially an aspect where the gorilla could have stayed with me, but instead he went back out in the open space with this woman who was hiking by and followed her.
Well, this brings up another really key point.
It was an introduction, at least.
Is that you could continue to have the relationship with the gorilla even though that particular dream is over, you could re-enter the dream and start up the movie again. This could be Meet the Gorilla Part 2, and you could
learn sign language.
Yeah, you could communicate more with the gorilla. You could maybe go for a walk in the woods with the gorilla. You could invite the gorilla into your house. So that's the thing about dreams is a lot of people treat them like they're a closed book or a letter that's fixed. That's it. End of communication. So all you can do is now stand and look at it and say, what might that mean?
Right.
But actually, if you bring re-entry into the toolkit, in other words, you open up the possibility of literally going back into the dream scene, then it's not a dead fixed thing. It's a living thing that could start up again and can continue forward, and you can keep working with it.
Now, are you talking about re-entry in your sleep, or writing it as if you dreamed it, how you would choose to dream it?
I'm talking about re-entry while you're awake.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So you take a remembered dream, like your gorilla dream, and you go back into the scene and you continue it in a direction that you were interested in exploring.
Okay.
Like, let's say you see the woman and the gorilla walking off into the woods, and you'd say, hey, I'd like to join them.
Yeah.
And you, instead of waking up end of dream, you start up the new part of the story. So actually you're making something up here, and a lot of people have a bit of problem with that. They say, is it legitimate to make up a dream or to make up part of a dream that wasn't in the dream? And my view is, yes, it's not the original dream. I'm not saying it's the original dream. I'm saying it's the same kind of thing. Your imagination produced the dream in the first place, and your imagination can carry it forward into new directions that you might want to explore. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. That's a good point. I mean, it is coming from the same source.
Exactly. And it puts you in a very proactive position. It's like you're saying, you know what, I'm interested in this gorilla. I want to know more about this guy and why he's come into my consciousness now. See, now you're in a very proactive place, and you can actually move the whole story forward. And that, if you're interested in dream work as a tool of personal growth and of understanding yourself, it's a very dynamic method to use. It's like you shift the question from what does my gorilla dream mean to what is it asking me to do? Like, and you're in,
right.
In my view, you're in a more dynamic and more interesting position if you ask the second question. What is the gorilla dream asking me to do?
And so how do you go about figuring out what is that gorilla asking me to do?
Yeah. Well, I think the best place is from within the dream itself, which is why re-entry is so important. You go back into it. You want to get more contact with the gorilla because you don't know really why he's there yet. So you go back in and you meet him again, and you literally can ask him, because don't forget, in dreams, gorillas can talk. And if you want
they can, yes.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
And so you can go in and say, why did you come over my fence in this dream? What do you want to tell me something, or do you have a message for me, or any kind of question like that opens up more information and more communication. Another really good technique with animals is to be the gorilla. Like, in other words, to switch roles. It's like all of a sudden you go into the gorilla, try to experience what it's like for that gorilla meeting you. So, and then you can kind of interview yourself.
Who is this person?
Yeah. What? Why did you come into Kim's yard? and then see if you get an answer. And very often you do. It's
Huh.
because that whatever's happening in your psyche is trying to communicate with you. So
Interesting.
that's the best way to do it, is from within the dream itself, using
Wow.
your imagination. That is the most used tool in my style of dream work, is the just using the visual and the feeling imagination to carry the story forward. And we all have that faculty.
Well, now, do you think these type of things, how many, potential meanings do you think a symbol like that could have for someone? Is it,
Well,
would you try to think, well, it's just one thing, or could it be multiple things?
it's usually, there's one that's right, at the center of it, that's the most resonant. but
Okay.
but it
So that was another,
only, yeah,
the
only you.
resonant thing
Yeah,
I picked up on in your book, where
yeah,
it
right,
has to have a double resonance.
right,
Can you
yeah,
share something
sure.
about that?
Well, I'm really glad you brought up this example of the gorilla dream, because it's a perfect example to illustrate all these points
Okay.
with. uh, you know like, the whole point of doing this kind of dream work is not to analyze or interpret,
Mm-hmm.
but just for you to understand how it connects to your own life, right? That, so only you would know for sure.
Right.
And if I was your dream facilitator or your counselor, and I was helping you with this dream, then there would be two of us in the room. And let's say you would say, well, I th- I think now that we're working with this dream, I think the gorilla has to do with XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
You make a connection, whatever it is. And then we see if that's resonant. And if it is a really true deep connection, it resonates for you and it resonates for me at the same time.
I see.
That's what I mean by double resonance.
Okay.
It's sort of like we're both going, oh yeah,
I
that's it.
see.
That's what it is. And then that's all, that's the insight you need. That, and of course, with something like a gorilla, which is, as you say, a symbol, it could mean 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people.
Yeah.
So really the only thing that matters is what it means to you at this time of your life.
Yes.
Right? And that's why dream dictionaries are pretty much useless, or even worse than useless, because they lead you on the wrong path often. Because they
Yeah.
will say a gorilla means this, or a monkey means that, or a snake means that. And that might be true for a certain person at a certain time, but it probably isn't. So that's why you need to individualize it for everybody.
Right. I do agree with that. Now, I loved how you mentioned talking dreamish.
Dreamish, yeah.
Dreamish. And I'm usually aware when dreams are using special lingo, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's camouflaged, and we don't, when we're experiencing the dream and we're caught up in the visuals and the experience of being there, we don't necessarily realize until we either share it with someone or we write it down, and then the catchphrase comes out in the description that
Mm-hmm.
is like, oh.
Right. Yeah, you'll use a particular phrase, or often it might even be a pun or a word play or a joke or a name, and all of a sudden you'll go, oh, that, and the whole meaning all of a sudden reveals itself.
Right.
Whoever makes our dreams is very,
It's a
very,
genius.
yeah, very, very tuned into words and wordplay for sure.
I
And
know.
that's one aspect of speaking dreamish. But the one that a lot of people have difficulty with is the playing of parts thing. Like you weren't probably dreaming about a real gorilla. You were, that gorilla was playing a part.
Yes.
And it was either playing a part of you, or it was
Uh-huh.
playing the role of someone or something in your life that is gorilla like. And so you don't really know, but it's likely
So that's your internal versus external
Yeah, that's the inner and outer thing.
orientation.
Yeah. So when say you have a dream about a gorilla, you go quickly, is this about a real gorilla? Because if you were a zookeeper or Jane Goodall or somebody, you could be dreaming about a real gorilla that you were concerned about. But 99% of the time, it'll be playing a part. So then you go, is it an inner part or an outer part? And you can often just intuitively feel your way into that.
Right. Can
And
you share a little bit more about the difference between an inner part and an outer part for people who haven't yet read the book?
yeah, it's, a figure normally a dream has you in it, the dream ego. That's kind of, and then it has other figures, right? Well, the thing about dreams is often those other figures could be playing aspects of you. They role playing a part of you, kind of split off and externalized. That is one thing that dreams do constantly, and I call that the playing of parts. So very likely the gorilla in your dream was an aspect of you, but it was split off and depicted as an external gorilla. And dreams just do that. I mean, that's just the way the dreaming brain works. So you have to get used to it. So, it's sort of like learning another language. And that's why I tongue in cheek, I call it dreamish. Like if you want to get a lot out of your dreams, you got to learn to speak dreamish, because that's the language that your brain uses when it's asleep. And so when you wake up, people often go, whoa, that was weird. And often it was so weird that they just dismiss it, which is too bad, because there could be a wonderfully important message embedded in that, but the weirdness of it turns a lot of people off, because it's like hearing Chinese or Korean or something. They just go, oh, I'll never understand that. Forget it.
Yeah.
Just a stupid dream. And they dismiss
They get overwhelmed, or they don't know where to start, or
right. So if they get used to this playing of parts thing, that will really help a lot. So what I suggest is you just do that quick algorithm in your head. Okay, I had a dream about a gorilla or George Clooney or whoever. Is that really referring to George Clooney? No, he's playing a part. Is it a part of me that's like George Clooney, or someone in my life who's like George Clooney? See, and you can do that very quickly, that
and
algorithm.
What does George Clooney mean to me in terms of like, oh, exactly. He's just good looking, or he's political, or he's whatever.
And those associations will help you figure it out. And then, that's how you just get used to doing that, because dreams are always using that. It roughly, 70 or 80% of the time, the key figure who seems to be external in your dream will actually be referring to an internal part of you. And the other 30% of the time, it'll be something external. So you always have to ask. That's one of the key things in dream work: inner or outer. And a lot of people are fond of saying, I've heard this many times, everything in a dream is a part of you. No, that's not right. Because we can't think about other people and other things and other situations and other things that bother us that are external to us.
Right.
We do often.
Right. And then, for those times where you have a dream that comes true, or, something like that, then there's no way it could be every bit of it about you. So if you're dreaming about a woman named Carol, who's a fitness trainer, a month before you meet her, and then boom, there she is.
I know. Yeah. So that brings us back to those rare and special dreams you were mentioning at the beginning, including visitation dreams, whereby some other soul or spirit comes into your dream.
Right.
Those do happen. There's no question. They have been widely researched, and most people have had dreams like that, and they're very special. But they're not the usual nightly fare.
Right.
In the usual nightly fare, you're more likely, it's you, the dream ego, and all these other figures. So when you wake up, And you say, don't just say, oh, that's weird, and dismiss it. Try to figure out, okay, that figure was in my dream. Is that an inner or an outer figure? And then as soon as you're thinking like that, it'll start to make sense to you, and you'll start to connect it to your life.
Now, say, for example, someone knows they have something coming up in their week that they may potentially, they're focusing on it. They may feel some anxiety or something, and then they have a dream, and the dream, sort of on the surface, it causes them stress in the dream, and they've, like, well, why do we do that to ourselves? Why, can't our dreaming self more, be more on our side, basically, in terms of like, is that really necessary? Did I really need to, have that dream?
Because it was stressful or anxious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one way to look at that is that it's giving you a platform or an opportunity to practice a new way of dealing with the stress.
Uh-huh.
So you can re-enter the dream and kind of freeze the action at the most the stressful and anxious point, and then you say, okay, I have a lot of time, a lot of space. There's no rush.
Yes.
I'm very conscious, and I have full mastery of the situation. What do I want to do?
And I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but this is another personal thing that your dream is like completely stressing you out, and then to the point that it wakes you up, and then after you've awakened and the stress is dissipated, then you look at the dream and you go, oh my God, it's hilarious. Like, it was
right.
So,
why was I still so stressed out by that?
Yes. So, I mean, I was spent the last couple of days reading your book, really like being so impressed with it, and then started to feel like, oh, this is an important interview. God, I don't want to mess it up. Right. And, so I'm confession here. And what do I dream? What do I dream? A flock of chickens is coming towards me, and someone's yelling, run, run, run.
Right. Perfect. You should work with that one.
I can't believe I'm sharing it. But it's like, hey, right. It happens.
Right. Well, if you went back into that dream, which I really think you should do, because it's a very, like I say, it gives you a good opportunity.
You chicken.
Yeah. So there's probably a word play there.
Yes. Just a little.
Yeah. But then, the important thing is to stop the action and get that sense of mastery and control, and then decide what you want to do about these chickens that are coming at you.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's odd. It's a double thing because, I'm crazy about animals. I have a history of a past story where I actually babysat a flock of chickens for a girlfriend who had to evacuate due to fires. And so I had a bunch of chickens at my house. I created a bunch of artwork on them while they were here. And so now they're like charging at me.
Now they're in your psyche.
Someone's yelling, run.
Right. But maybe you don't want to run, you see?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't. It was like,
right.
And it was a disembodied voice that was yelling, run. There was nobody there. So.
Yeah. So there you go. Go to, tonight, what I would do, lying in bed, I'd re-enter that dream, and they're coming at me. The voice says, run, and just freeze frame right there. And then decide what you want to do, and then rehearse it. Practice the new outcome.
Yes.
You may know that in post-traumatic stress disorder, recurring nightmares is a primary symptom of it, and they're usually terrifying, and they're very repetitive. And one of the best therapies for that is called imagery rehearsal therapy, which is essentially exactly what we're talking about. You go back into the dream, which is frightening, and you stop it and you choose a new outcome, and then you rehearse the new outcome. And then the whole thing starts to change, because what you're training your brain.
Well, the chickens themselves weren't scary. Right. It was this person yelling, "Run!"
Right.
It sort of like
yeah
covered the whole thing. Like, why should I be afraid?
Right. Exactly. It's pointing out to you something that happens in your brain automatically that you can't control. It's like a reflex. You got to go in there and take mastery over that and practice, working with it.
Yeah.
And you can do it. That's the great thing about that dream. You see, a lot of people would just dismiss that dream because of its absurdity, and also the fact that they wouldn't want to go back into it because it was so unpleasant. they wouldn't want to re-traumatize themselves. So, right. But actually, it's offering you a great opportunity to work on something. So I would take it. It's a beauty.
You big chicken.
Yeah.
But, and this is nothing to be scared of today.
Right. The interview isn't that frightening, is it? No. Hopefully a flock of chickens won't come charging through the room.
I know. Gosh. Yeah. And I got free eggs for a long time after babysitting those chickens, which was awesome. So,
yeah, wonderful.
Well, now I was interested in your section on introjections.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to share something on that.
Yeah, introjection, I'll briefly define it as something that's inside you that shouldn't be inside you. And it can be either psychological or physical. For example, a splinter is a physical introject. Mm-hmm. It's something in your body that your body doesn't want it there. It's like the body doesn't like foreign objects in it, and it will try to either absorb them or expel them. And the same is true with the psyche. The psyche does not like foreign things like, brainwashing or coercive teaching, or foreign content that was forcefully impressed into your personality. Mm-hmm. The whole psyche does not like that, and it will try and get rid of those foreign psychic contents. And the kind of dream that accompanies that is what I call an introject dream, which is there's something in your body and you're trying to get it out. And the most common things are worms, parasites, bugs that are burrowing into your body, snakes that you're pulling out your throat or out your nose, or long strings of mucus that you're pulling out an orifice, or implants that are implanted in your brain or your ear. So those are all very, very common. And you see, they all have that common element. It's there's something in me and I don't want it in me, and I'm horrified and I want to get it out.
Now, how do people go about, narrowing down what, the special meaning of those, each of those symbols is to them?
Well, again, the wonderful thing about re-entry dream work is that you don't need to know the answer. Let's say you're trying to get an implant that was pressed into the back of your neck at the base of your skull, and you're trying to dig it out and get it out of you. You don't need to know yet exactly what that implant refers to, but you need to get it out. So in the process of imagining getting it out, you will very likely figure out how it got in the first place and what it is referring to. So in other words, the insight and the full understanding comes a bit later, and that's fine. That's actually the best way to do it. It's much better than, the interpretive way whereby you would sit outside it and you'd say, I wonder what that implant refers to. Why would I have a dream about such a thing? You don't need to do that. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Just go back into the dream and freeze the action, give yourself lots of time, and figure out how to get that thing completely out so there's no danger of it going back in.
Uh-huh.
Then if you do that imaginally a few times, you probably will figure out what that thing is. So in other words, action before insight. You do the action that you need,
Mm-hmm.
and then you will have the insight later. Very often the insight will come as you're actually doing it. You'll say, oh God, I know what that is.
Hmm.
And introject dreams, very commonly what happens is that the person feels they got a bit of the thing out, but there's still more in there. So then the imaginal dream work, the goal of it is to imagine getting all of it out. So that's very often what you do. You have to go back into the dream, and let's say you're pulling a long string out your nose and you feel you got part of it out. It's actually a very common dream theme. You got part of it out, but there's still some of it down in there. Then you imagine getting all of it out. And then you probably, in the course of doing that, you will figure out what it's referring to. And if you don't worry about it. It's more important that you get it out. The insight will come later.
Now, do you ever, I didn't find this in the book yet. It might be in there. But do you ever work with people about, sort of, inviting a specific type of dream? I mean,
yeah. If, we call that's often called dream incubation.
Dream incubation.
Where just before sleep, you ask for a dream that will shed light on a particular concern or question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful technique because it sets the intention level very high. And, intention setting is a really good tool. And by the way, it's also the best thing to do if you're not remembering many dreams, or if your dream recall is low and you want to improve it.
Right.
Set the intention just before bed. I want to have a dream. So the dream incubation is a version of intention setting where you're saying, I want to have a dream that sheds light on this concern. Now, the trouble is, of course, your dream maker doesn't always have the same priorities as you.
Yes.
So it may send you a dream that has nothing whatsoever to do with the question that you incubated. But, in which case, if you can't see a connection after working with it, just let it go and, take the dream for what it is. It's a communication about something else, maybe.
What would you say if somebody had a physical malady that sort of came out of nowhere and they were confused about it and asked a dream for some information on it? And someone shows up in the dream at like a guide figure and says, well, this is related to a past life you've had, and you don't need it in your life and you can release it. But I mean,
well, what I would suggest is, work with it. But again, I would suggest re-entering that if you don't feel complete about the understanding of what's happening. Then don't spend hours and hours and hours thinking about it and asking other people about it. Just go back into it.
Yes.
and carry the story forward from the inside. Try to get more information from the figures that already, brought you some information in the dream. For me, that's the most, you get the best results because you're starting in this very accurate place that emerged from your unconscious recently. So again, it's a time to work with the dream from the inside.
Well, do you have any thoughts on where you see dream working going in the future, or where would you like to see it go?
Well, yeah, I would like to see it getting it back into healthcare. It it currently doesn't have a very strong established place in North America anyway, in our healthcare traditions. And I think that's unfortunate because, as I was saying before, the early level preventive medicine that comes through dreams is, I think, very, very important and relevant for our healthcare system. So for that reason alone, I would like to see it, back in the curriculums in nursing school, in medical school, in psychiatry, in psychology, in social work, in pastoral counseling, all these places, like where, people, if they felt it would be well received, they would be telling their healthcare practitioners about troubling dreams that they had. But, they typically don't, because you don't,
Right. They
in our
think you're crazy.
society, yeah, you don't tell your doctor your dreams usually.
Right.
And there, of course, there are some exceptions, and that's wonderful, but they are exceptions. So what I would like to see is that health dreams find their way back into psychiatry, psychology, and medicine, and all forms of psychotherapy, which now they do still have a foothold in many psychotherapy offices around the world. And that's one of the places where some dream work is done, I would say, fairly regularly, and that's great. But it just, there needs to be more of it, because we're all dreaming, and it's a very valuable layer of information that, unfortunately, for most people, is just wasted.
Well, so for people who say, "Oh, I never remember my dreams," I mean, obviously, we know that they likely are dreaming, even though they don't remember them.
Oh yeah.
Um,
What to do?
Yeah.
Right. No, it's a tough one.
Do-
Yeah.
Is it primarily because they just
Yeah.
don't want to look at the inner workings of their psyche, or deeper layers of their life?
I suspect so.
Want to be on the surface.
Yeah. That they're, they don't want to receive some of this reflective feedback that is coming through their dream life. So that's one possibility.
Do you think some people have this as a response to maybe they had one or multiple nightmares that
Yep.
they just decided to shut down on that?
Yeah. Some people feel very traumatized by their dream life, so they don't want to put any more attention on it, because they'll be traumatized even more. And actually, children who have terrifying nightmares are often in that category.
Right.
But it's really a shame, because if you use a re-entry method or something like it, and you go back into the terrifying nightmare, you really can't change it. Even 3 and 4-year-old children can change it very easily and quickly. But someone has to kind of guide them and say, you know what, okay, so this big zombie's coming at you. You don't need to run. You could face the zombie, and not only that, you could have whatever weapon you want, or whatever helper you want.
Mm-hmm.
You could have a big policeman beside you. You could have your mom or dad beside you, or your friends, or 3 huge bears, or that gorilla,
right,
or whatever you want. You see, and people often don't think of that. They think they have to suffer the horrible conditions of their dream again and again and again, and they never actually believe that they could change it. So, dream work often amounts to someone saying, you know what, you could go back into this and change it. And then it would actually start to change in your brain, and your repeating nightmares would start to change. And that is what happens. But someone needs to take the initiative, and very often that would be a dream worker or a therapist or a counselor of some kind, because the tradition of actively working with dreams in families is often broken. It's not there. So the parent doesn't really know what to do
Right.
necessarily. So they will often, they'll just say, "Oh, just go back to sleep, honey. That was just a dream."
Yes.
They won't work with the dream in its own terms, and that's that's what you have to do to actually
Even just the
change.
term "just a dream"
Yeah,
is so damaging to the
right.
whole
Yeah, it's
idea
a
of it. Just a
yeah,
dream.
it's a missed opportunity. There was a wonderful book published recently about working with children's nightmares. It's called Sleep Monsters and Superheroes. So if one of your
That's a
listeners
great title.
is a parent of a child who is suffering from frightening nightmares, go on Amazon and look for that. Sleep Monsters and Superheroes. It's all about helping children, gain a sense of power and mastery in their dream life. And then it really starts to change. So they don't need to suffer like that. Same with
Right.
adults.
Is there anything specific that you recommend in terms of recording the dreams, making a dream record?
Oh, yeah.
To help people organize them, or how often should they review them? Obviously,
Right. I always encourage people who say they have very poor dream recall to figure out which part of it is it that not many dreams are coming through in the first place, which is what you're talking about. There's some kind of block or resistance maybe. Or is it that they are dreaming a lot? And this is what a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm dreaming a lot, but I can't catch a hold of them in the morning as I'm waking up." Okay. And then the third problem is they catch a hold of them while they're in bed, waking up. They remember them quite clearly, but by lunchtime, they've completely forgotten them.
right.
So in other words, they didn't anchor them into their long-term memory. So figure out which of those three areas you're having trouble in. And if you're having trouble in the first area, then intention setting is what you want to do. Like asking for dreams, and working through old dreams is very good too. It gets the whole flow happening again. If you're having trouble in the second area, which is catching a hold of them in the morning, try the capture a cue technique, where you have a pencil and paper by your bed and you write down one little thing, one word, one name, one drawing. And then if you have to go back to sleep because you're exhausted, you can do that. Go back to sleep. If you have to get up because your alarm went off, you can do that. Get up. But you've got that one little cue written down. So you come back and you say, "Oh, gorilla." Yes, I had a dream about a gorilla, and it all comes back to you. So
Right.
that's for people who have trouble with the catching. For people who have the trouble with the anchoring into the long-term memory, what you need to figure out, because that's highly personal and individual, you need to figure out what it takes to get it into long-term memory. Because our brains are always snipping off irrelevant, unused stuff that we have not prioritized as being important. So if you don't prioritize that dream as being important and take whatever action is necessary to remember it, then it'll be pruned. That's what they call it in neurophysiology. The neurons that are responsible for the little circuit for remembering your gorilla dream might be pruned away by 3 days later, in which case it's gone. You can't get it back.
Right.
It doesn't exist in your memory anymore. So, you need to figure out how to make sure your important dreams are not pruned. And that's different for different people. For me, it's like running through it twice in my mind in the morning. That I find that revisiting it twice very helpful. Also, if you have a partner who's willing to listen to your dream life, that's quite wonderful too. Speaking it out loud to another person is great. Yes. And then you have someone else who can help you remember it too.
And I find that oftentimes sharing it that way brings a whole other aspect of it
Mhm.
out that you wouldn't have recognized, even if you
Indeed.
wrote it down. For
Hmm.
some reason, it's
Right.
the aspect that you unwittingly choose to share
Right.
first. The
Yep.
first thing that you share, what's the most important thing of it? And
Right. The words that you
um,
choose to express it to another person
yes,
are often very revealing and
they
help you.
are. It's
Yeah.
kind of a surprising thing that I discovered when people started sharing their dreams with me. It was like,
Hmm.
do you realize what you just said?
Yeah.
So they weren't even aware. And so I know the same is for me too. But um,
Yeah.
oh, there was okay. Now, so you talked a little bit about rituals. People can do some rituals
Hmm.
to help them work through dreams. So could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Rituals is one of the types of response. I mean, the fifth step of my method is responding to your dream, meaning after you've had the insight about what the dream is referring to in your life, that's great, but don't stop there. Go on to the next phase, which is to respond to that insight, to actually do something. And one of the things that you can do is a ritual. And a ritual is particularly good for if something is really unfinished, to bring it to conclusion or fruition or completion. And this is often if you're dreaming about something that troubles you from the past, and it doesn't feel complete yet, then you might want to do a ritual which helps you come to a sense of completion about it. Ritual is also great when you have a very special, powerful dream that's often about an animal, or, uh, or yeah,
I
like
need to
for
go get a
example,
gorilla stuffed
yeah,
animal.
yeah, exactly, or wear a gorilla necklace, or put a picture of a gorilla on your fridge or your screensaver. So just to
Yeah,
hold the image in your mind to keep it relevant and keep it active.
like a
And
totem in a
yeah,
way.
because it could be that.
Hmm.
So whenever you have that a really special numinous dream like that, that often calls for a ritual, or something that feels like it's not quite complete, that also calls for a ritual. But a response could be anything that you do based on an insight from a dream, including making a change of attitude. That's perhaps the most common type of response. Like, let's say you get a dream that shows you it had an infamous figure in it who's kind of nasty and bossy, and you realize, oh, you know what? I think that's a part of me. I'm being too bossy, and I'm going to resolve to change that. So that there you're
Yes.
responding to the dream insight by making a resolution to be more aware of something or to try and change something in yourself, and that's wonderful.
They are really great opportunities for personal growth
Absolutely. Yep.
that way. That's
They're
really cool.
always showing us something about ourselves. They're really, really on the ball that way.
I would really like to know who this crazy director is in
Uh-huh.
my life. So,
Uh-huh.
um, well, gosh, is there anything else from your book that you would like to make a point of before we
Well,
wrap it up?
yeah. You know, to come back to this question of responding to dreams, I really do feel that a lot of people kind of stop before they get to that level. For it's kind of enough for them to think about the dream and be fascinated. So for those people, I would really encourage them, just pick one dream a month, maybe. I know we're all busy and we don't have time to do the full dream work cycle with every dream. We just don't
Right.
have the time. But pick one dream a month where you actually commit to acting on the insight.
I
And
love
then
it.
and just try that. And I think what you'll see is it kind of drives forward your personal growth and your personal awareness much faster. And it's quite a wonderful thing. It's like you're taking the feedback and you're responding to the feedback, and then you get more feedback and you respond to that. So it's a positive feedback loop.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a place that people should find you, or
Well, my website is just my name, ChristopherSowton.com. So you can take a look there. There's lots of stuff there about, dream events and various aspects of working with dreams. And maybe I'll post this interview there later.
Yeah.
And then the book, which is very recently published by Llewellyn. I'm very pleased with it. I think it's a good place for people to start if they've got this whole dream working bug in their head. And, again, I would say when you read the book, think of it as, this is about tuning into your own dream life, and also just keep a part of your mind open to, are you interested in helping other people? Are you possibly interested in becoming a dream facilitator or a dream worker yourself? Because the book also kind of speaks to that a little bit. And, if you are,
right,
I say go for it. Even though there's no DreamWork college per se, or Dream University, not that I know of anyway. It's not a
there
direct
is in our dreams.
Yeah, and maybe in our dream life there is.
There is.
But it's not like you can just go sign up for an anthropology class at your local college, unfortunately. But you may have to do some sleuth work to find out how you're going to train yourself. But I'll tell you one thing, the world needs more good dream workers right now.
It sure could help. It could help.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I would love to have a chat with you again sometime about dreams. If
Sure, I'd love to.
I think there's just so much that we could talk about with dreams.
Mm-hmm.
People, we need to get more people talking about them.
Yeah.
You have to make it more acceptable before they'll start, taking it more seriously for themselves, I think. I mean, it just occasionally really, makes me sad and shocks me when I casually mention it to someone, say the checkout girl at the grocery store,
Right.
and she freaks out like, oh no, I don't want to.
What are you talking about?
My religion doesn't believe in that.
Right.
So,
Well, there's a whole other aspect that perhaps we could discuss.
Yes.
Some of the cultural barriers towards listening to one's own inner guide, because in a lot of religious constructs, you're really not supposed to have an inner guide.
I know
that's not really looked upon very favorably.
Yeah.
But we do have the inner guide, and we it's sad when we close it down and ignore what it's trying to communicate to us. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, and look forward to talking again soon.
For information about Kim's book, Sleeping with Spirit, A Journey with Psychic Dreams, visit psychicdreamjourney.com.